One of the most diabolical quotes that I've come across was from 1806, a gentleman by the name of Johann Fichte. And this is what he said in preparation for Germany with Prussia, as you mentioned, their school. So this is what he said, quote, "Education should aim at destroying free will, so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. When the technique has been perfected, every government that has been in charge of education for more than one generation will be able to control its subjects securely without the need of armies or policemen." And that's from his 8th address to the German nation. So that's over 200 years ago. And now in the US, this system's going on since 1852.
Hi there, I'm Christine Zips, and today, as part of our ongoing Back to School 2020 What Parents Should Know series, our guest today speaking on the topics of homeschooling, a little bit of data mining, Common Core, and just what we parents can look to find within our public schools these days, as we're getting very close to the wire of heading that way. By way of introduction, I would like to say that my guest today is David Rodriguez. David is the principal of Valor Academy, specializing in teenage apprenticeships, and the publisher of The Underground History of American Education by world-renowned educator John Taylor Gatto. I have that book. It's wonderful. And David is the co-author of The Apprenticeship Solution, proponent of homeschooling for parents who want to protect their kids from the public school system. He's an advocate for giving children the freedom to pursue their interests, passions, and dreams. And he's here to share with us the backstory of how our current system came to be and how we can do better. Welcome, David. I'm pleased to welcome you back to Zips Media platform. And David did an outstanding job speaking on this topic a couple of years ago in one of our roundtables that's available for viewing on our YouTube channel. And I'll share a link below. So thank you so much for being with us, David.
Hey, I'm happy to be back. And this is such an important and timely topic. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll be relying on a few notes to help keep myself on track. I know you are so well versed in everything, so no need to prepare heavy lifting. But to get us started, I'll admit to reviewing some excellent interviews you've done lately with Richard Sachs of Lost Art Radio and Jeff Berwick of Anarchast. So some of these questions may seem a little familiar. So starting with, David, do you believe it's true that the current controllers of government and major corporations in the US and most of the world are interested in totally brainwashing the kids to assure compliant slaves, incapable of coherent thought, without basic skills, and possessing no common sense for generations to come?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you a quote right off the top, because as I was doing this work with John Taylor Gatto, who is the famous school teacher, as you mentioned, taught for 30 years, the history of it, one of the most diabolical quotes that I've come across was from 1806, a gentleman by the name of Johann Fichte. And this is what he said in preparation for Germany with Prussia, as you mentioned, their school. So this is what he said, quote, "Education should aim at destroying free will, so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. When the technique has been perfected, every government that has been in charge of education for more than one generation will be able to control its subjects securely without the need of armies or policemen." And that's from his 8th address to the German nation. So that's over 200 years ago. And now in the US, this system's going on since 1852. So at least 4 or 5 generations, conservatively there, that's exactly what they do. They don't want common sense. They don't want critical thinkers. And they want you just to be obedient, comply, do what you're told, because that's easy for you to be controlled and to manage and to pay your taxes and support wars and wear masks when there's no evidence of a, global pandemic. I mean, really just whatever the media tells you, you will do, So I agree with that powerful statement that you started with.
I believe I've shared with you before we got going, I was a little hesitant to lead with that because it was just so out there. But what I'm finding absolutely supports that. And thank you for sharing that quote from back around the 1820 time period. That's amazing. And, I'm wondering that, like you mentioned, that it's kind of been prevalent in the 1950s or whatever. And, this just seems so extreme. And how much do you think parents know this is happening, and how can they get by with this type of environment in our schools? I mean, isn't the goal of schools to teach our children primarily, period?
Well, that's the storyline that the state sells us. Okay, so the fundamental wrong or the immoral part, the criminality of the whole system is it's based on mandatory attendance. And before I completely just berate the system, I come from a family of school teachers and government educators. This is my mother and other family. So there's loving people, I know for a fact, in the system, but it's based on mandatory attendance. So if your audiences just want to take a guess what other mandatory attendance organizations exist out there, you're going to have a hard time finding one. You might say prison, because that's the only other place you're mandated to attend. Because as adults, you and I, Christine, we can choose what we want to do. Do we want to work at McDonald's? Do we want to, go try some other jobs, start a lawn mowing business, or whatever we do, we choose. And that is what's a fundamental, important part of the future of education is the learners are going to choose. And so this is a moral system. You don't have any control of the curriculum. We'll talk later, but it's mandatory. So when you coerce somebody, especially a child, like the young people we're talking about, they love learning. They're curious. Life is a mystery. Life is a gift. This is so amazing that we're humans in this body, whether you believe in God or nature or evolution or whatever, we're here. And this is something, it's exciting to be a human. But then when you say, this is what you have to read, this is what you have to study, then those happy smiles turn into sad faces and we don't want to do it. And it's, there's bullies in the schools, and it's just like this fabricated world, which is uninspiring, unempowering, and that's the opposite of what we need. We absolutely need inspiration now. We need empowerment. We need an evolution in the system, and I don't think it's going to happen in the system, but it's going to be by individuals removing their children one by one. And as we talked about earlier, if your child's in the school system, we have some kind of approaches that will be helpful, but once mom and dad understands some of these things we're talking about, that quote I gave you from 1806, let me give you one from 1901, because if mom and dad out there, if you can understand the origin of the school system, not voluntary school system, the compulsory school system was to create obedience, then that gives you a little bit more motivation that when you give your child to these state employees, as I mentioned, many of them are loving, but they're in a system, they're in an apparatus, and they don't choose the curriculum, they get the state to deliver the curriculum. From 1901, Edward Ross, in his book, Social Control, he said, quote, plans are underway to replace community, family, and church with propaganda, education, and mass media. The state breaks loose from the church, reaches out to school. People are only little plastic lumps of human dough, end quote. So this is 100 years ago, and there's more quotes, and you can take a look at the book if you want to dig deeper into it. And then look at John Taylor Gatto's YouTube channel. We've uploaded a lot of videos, a lot of his speeches, and you can go through. So I know it's a big pill to swallow that, man, the schools were designed to replace the church, replace the family, and it actually becomes a religion. And this is what John Gatto said. He said it is a cult, it is a religion, it's a jobs project. And that's someone who spent 30 years in New York public schools, winning the State Teacher of the Year award twice, City Teacher 3 times, and inspiring some of the great thinkers of modern business world today, modern medicine. A lot of people really respect him because it takes courage to speak this truth, back in the 90s. And now you and I and other people we're going to discuss here are starting to expose what's really happening in schools. And because it's like almost the sacred cow, right? Because it's the schools and it makes a community, but deep down, they are molding your human lumps of dough, as they say, or removing free will, destroying free will, so they can't imagine to do anything what their schoolmaster would disagree upon. They're policing themselves, and we're seeing that evidence today. So I think if parents understand that main point, then that will be a good stepping stone to go on to the next levels.
Very, very good. I'm glad you mentioned that. And as you were speaking, I was envisioning a meme I have, and I'll plug it into this video here. And you may have seen it, where at the top of the image, there are children kind of marching in a line, but they're all uniquely dressed, different colors, smiling, different, unique children coming toward this gate, and they come through the gate, which is the school, and through the other side at the bottom of the image is like Nazi soldiers all dressed in gray uniforms marching like this, no expressions on their faces. Like that's what we're churning out in our schools these days. And the more I learn about this, like I've shared with you, I'm an only child. I have no children of my own. I am a yaya through marriage. I'm very, very grateful for. So, but we're doing this for all our children. That's just amazing. With John Taylor Gatto, I have that book. He's done amazing work. What an inspiration. And I understand that what he had said, that at the end of his school career, when he just said, I quit, I can no longer hurt children. I cannot do it any longer. Bless his heart. Oh my goodness, he has just done so much. And we are honoring him with this video today, and with your continuing work, David. It's wonderful. So I'll do my best to share a couple of clips from some of his videos, so people will appreciate the wonder that he was, and highly recommend your books with him as well.
But I think inside of a decade, the institutional schools would vanish, because they don't teach the way children learn, nor can they teach the way children learn. That's not what they're set up to do. They're set up to produce a predictable, homogeneous, safe product. They're set up to sort people into occupational categories, roughly consonant with what the current economy demands. Your theorists, through history, were the first to reflect on the best, most efficient ways to manage populations. And your theorists worked out state institutions very early on. I'll give you one example that caused the socialization of populations and the stratification of populations to take place, I won't say indelibly, but certainly to an extreme degree, very early on in the 17th, and by the middle of the 18th century, the stratifications across Europe were perfect, and there was no way really to escape unless you were a highly unusual person, and you could see through a lot of the constraints on us, a lot of the strings that hold us like puppets are really inventions of our own mind. I'm not saying that there aren't armies and police and various ways to punish deviants, but there isn't any way to punish a large number of deviants. There isn't any way to do that. It's too expensive to even try to do it unless you can colonize the minds of children growing up so they become their own police. And they will report other children who are deviating. Here's the most radical thing I think I've ever had to say. The computer business is exclusively the work of school dropouts. Bill Gates, who demanded, in effect, that everyone be sent to college, himself dropped out of college his freshman year. His partner, Paul Allen, who only has 10 or 12 billion, is a dropout as well. Steve Jobs is a dropout from Reed College. I think he only had a term, but maybe he had 2. His partner, Steve Wozniak, is a dropout. Michael Dell, you guessed it, a dropout. Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle, a dropout. Who the hell are these people to say we all need 4 more years in the lockup, copying notes off the board? And I submit to you, had it been up to colleges and research universities, we would either not have a computer business, we certainly wouldn't have the computer dominance of planet Earth.
But from what I've picked up in general about Common Core, it seems to be that this form of curriculum has been on its way out in many school districts due to opposition from many teachers. And is this your understanding? I understand that the best gift we can give teachers is to get Common Core out of schools, that they don't like it. So if you care to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So curriculum, they're always trying a new curriculum, a new program, a new project, something to get the money infused. And so Common Core curriculum is actually the first attempt at a national curriculum because traditionally it's the state who gives the money to the districts and then the districts give it to the schools. So now this is a national curriculum. And as you mentioned, it's being walked back a little bit because people are starting to speak out of its absurdity. If you guys want to have a good laugh, look up Common Core math and look that up, just look at the supreme confusion in the questioning. They don't give you enough information to resolve the question.
So first thing is we have our multiplication problem, 35 times 12. The first thing we need to do after that is expand these two numbers. We need to break it down into its tens and its ones. I've got 3 tens, which is 30, and 5 ones, so that is 30 plus 5. 12 is 1 10 plus 2 ones. Okay, so that's step 1. The next step would be to draw a large box.
And then for the next number, we add a 0, and then it's 5 times 1. And then again, because it's not above 10, there's no number to carry, then it's 3 times 1, which is 3. So now we add 70 plus 350, which gives us 420. So, and the way you do that, obviously 0 plus 0 is 0, 7 plus 5 is 12, carry the 1, and that's how we get the 4 in that column.
Okay, and on this box, we're going to put both of our expanded numbers. So on the top, I'm going to put 30 plus 5, and on the side, I'm going to put 10 plus 2. Where your plus signs are, I want you to draw lines through the middle and down it. And then in the very corner, we're still multiplying, so I'm going to put a big multiplication sign. Starting with our very first number on the top, we say 10 times this, 10 times that. So first we're going to do 10 times 30. Sometimes it gets a little tricky when we have those extra zeros on there when we're multiplying by a 10. So I like to say 1 times 3 is 3. And how many zeros do we have? We've got 2, so we attach them to the end of the number. So 10 times 30 is 300. We did 10 times this, 10 times that. 10 times 5 is 50, so it goes in the first box. And then we do 2. We go down to the 2 because we're done with the 10. 2 times this, 2 times that. So 2 times 30. 2 times 3 is 6. And between both of these numbers, I've only got the 1 0, so I attach it to the end. 2 times 30 is 60. 2 times this, 2 times that. Now I'm going to do 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. I filled up all my numbers on the inside. Now all I have to do is add them up. So over here I'm going to add 300, and I like to check them off as I go. 50, 60, and 10. Make sure you line up your places too. 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, those are zeros all the way down, so 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. 5 plus 6 is 11. 11 plus 1 more is 12. Bring that 2 and carry that 100. 3 plus 1 is 4, and that is your answer. 35 times 12 equals 420.
So 420 is the answer. What did that take? Less than 1 minute and a half, and I was explaining it. So if I was just doing this, writing it out and not explaining it, it would have taken me even a shorter amount of time. So yes, Common Core math is garbage. It needs to end, and kids are getting confused, and it needs to stop, because when it comes time to take the SAT or other type of placement test, they're going to be spending 10 minutes on a multiplication problem. There's no way they're going to be able to do geometry, trigonometry. I don't think calculus is an SAT, but no, this is not good. Stop it, stop it, stop it.
And I don't think that's an accident. I think it's all part of their plan to, as we mentioned, the quote from 200 years ago, destroy free will, destroy imagination, demotivate, uninspired, and then they hate learning. And so it really removes that love of learning that children have, that we all have. You know, we want to find out what is going on and how does this world work. And then this curriculum, it's not even a state curriculum, it is a national curriculum, more centralized control and power, because these criminals who use government as a tool of tyranny, they want to indoctrinate your child with this religion called statism. And this is where it's okay to use coercion on peaceful people. You can, be thrown in a cage for smoking a plant. You're not allowed to find cures for cancer and these kind of things. I mean, it's the whole spectrum of what the state has done, and it's really being exposed as illegitimate. You have natural rights or natural freedoms to your life and your pursuit of happiness and your property, and it's being revealed that, you know what, I think we're sovereign beings. I think, nature or God who made us want us to take responsibility for our life, and this starts tapping into the self-ownership principle. Who owns you? And if there's anybody other than you who own you, you might be indoctrinated. You really got to take a look at it and say, do I own myself? Because that I do. I believe I own myself. Nobody has a higher claim on my hands or my head or my, body than me. And so the other side of that coin is responsibility. So freedom and responsibility come together, and then the non-aggression principle, and so that's kind of, getting on the side there. So in terms of curriculum, mom and dad out there, you don't got to get into the weeds, of all these dates and things with what's going on, but you want to look at the environment. What type of environment do these schools have? And if in a real, educational environment, it's informal, it's relaxed, there's not judgment, there's freedom to explore, mistakes are looked at differently, right? This is another thing with the Common Core is as long as you follow what their instructions are, you can get the wrong answer and still be marked correct. Where in real life, in real math, the path doesn't matter, you get the right answer, and that's correct. And so they demonize making mistakes, making errors, and that's how we actually learn. So yeah, the Common Core curriculum hopefully will go away, but the state is a criminal organization. It's based on coercion, threats, and intimidation. So why would they treat your child with love, right? And this is why I'm so passionate talking with you parents, because you are invested emotionally and spiritually with your child. You're going to be around in 10 years, in 20 and 30 years. But this teacher, God bless their soul, but they're going to be gone in 10 months. And they're probably going to forget your child's name, unless your child's, like a remarkable person. But they got anywhere from 100 to 150 students a day. That's a lot for a teacher, so these teachers are being overworked and not really respected, by the kids because the environment is really bad. So my philosophy at my school, Valor Academy, is that the world is the classroom. That's number one. And number two is that anybody you can learn from can be a teacher. So that is books, that is videos, that is blogs, that is podcasts, everything. And it doesn't have to be one set. You say, okay, you have to learn math. You're 10 years old. You got to be able to do algebra, or you got to be able to read. It's like, well, that would be nice if they chose to do that, but this is their life. And at some age, whether it's 10 or 12 or 18, they're going to realize, wow, life, this is amazing. Like, I got to do something, or what do I want to do? And, they can go explore and have a nice experience on earth. We blink and it's 20 and 40 and 60 and 80 years old. Like, this is a fast life. So rather than forcing the curriculum upon them, mom and dad, my recommendation is you open it up, allow them to pursue what they're interested in, what they're curious about, even if it's weird to you, if it's Play-Doh or dinosaurs or butterflies or who knows, rocks in the river. Like, that's educational for them because they are focused on that, and it's motivating them. So we can talk about how to build a curriculum around that, but basically as long as they can learn to read, write, and talk, it doesn't matter if they're age 10 when they learn to do that or age 15 or 20, because when they're 22 or 25, they're going to love learning still. They're going to be a huge asset to a company or a business that they're building. And this would set them apart from any student, or I would say many students who would graduate from a public school and not have any inspiration, any desire to be better in a free way rather than a compulsory manner.